Now, how rude of me. How rude of me to not take y'all back to the beginning of where it all started. My first experience from me starting podcasting and where it all started from. So I figured, you know what? On this episode, this will be part 2 to part 1. So I said, you know what? I figure on this episode, I'll just, talk about me first podcasting and from 2018 to how we ended up here right now in 2020 during this crazy time that we're in. So without further ado, this is where I started off on podcasting. So I started off in 2018 the fall of 2018. I started off I joined a podcast that was already active. They was doing their own thing. They had a lot of steam around them. So my friend X is like, yo, you should come over and get on the episode. And then I kept joining. And then they asked me to fully get on the podcast. So I said, you know what? Fuck it, why not? It's my first time. And I'm not going to lie. That first time, I'm telling you, that first time getting on a microphone was fucking nerve-wracking. If you can, the episode is still out. You can go listen to it on the Greenhouse podcast. They're on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, all the major platforms and whatnot. And the episode I was on, boy, was I nervous. My heart was beating heavy. I was sweating. I tried not to show it. I hope they didn't see it, but I was nervous as hell because this is something that's going out to who knows. Like I didn't know their fan base at the time. I barely knew them, AJ and Sharik, but I knew X. So I was on the episode. It was, but I got through it. Like as I was going on and on and on, I got looser as the episode went. But I realized that in that moment, preparation was key. Because they had their situation of how they prepped for everything, but I didn't. So moving forward, in my mind, I would just prep, for each episode because they would have a docket and everything, and I would just go off of that, and then I was able to, maneuver from there. But I want to say, then we did a live concert, probably a couple months after that. It was okay. I got myself through it because I found one person in the audience that I locked eyes with, and I was like, you know what? If I can lock eyes with this, it was my brother. I said, if I can lock eyes with this person and just look at this person, I'm good to go. So we made it through that, and then right in the middle of that, well, before that had came around, the Greenhouse, I was already trying to start a podcast called This Is How I'm Living. So from that point on, when I had This Is How I'm Living, I said, you know what? I found somebody that I was like, you know what? Boom, you know how to do this part, I know how to do this part. Boom, let's get it going. So when this whole Greenhouse shit was going on, I was still in the middle of that and doing This Is How I'm Living. It was still in the beginning stages, but then eventually I left the Greenhouse podcast because it became too much on my end, because I was doing This Is How I'm Living, then the Greenhouse, and then I was trying to do more with This Is How I'm Living podcast, and so that's why I said, you know what, I had to stop doing the Greenhouse. So back to This Is How I'm Living podcast, when that idea came about in 2018, it originally started, the original idea for that was to sit on the couch and talk to people and have them, like I would write down, kind of like a TV show, like I would write down questions and whatnot, and I would pick my friends who I knew could navigate a conversation, because if you know your friends, hey, this friend can hold a conversation, this friend isn't going to respond that much, this friend has some good points, this friend is off the wall when they talk, but we need them. So I knew all my friends who would, be good for that. And boy, when I tell you that first night, I learned a lot about my friends that first night. I still got some of the footage. I never release it. But yeah, that was, and I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous doing that also, because I'm getting people to talk and express their feelings, and I messed up because I had everybody drunk. I should have not had so much alcohol, but I'm having people express their feelings, and it's a random set. I'm doing it on my couch. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I just know I got a camera, I got people, and I know how to edit it, and I want to record it, and this is what I want to do. So eventually that the couch idea kind of faded out. So then when I did the Greenhouse podcast, I said, you know what, all right, let me do a podcast, you know. So we did the This Is How I'm Living podcast, and that started taking off. Slowly, every Wednesday episode came out. 48 of them came out actually. And doing that was nerve-wracking too. The first time doing that, because it's a different. I tell people it's a difference between having a conversation with friends off mic versus having a conversation with friends on mic. And the off mic conversations, obviously they're not recorded, nobody's listening, you can say what you want, but when you're on mic, you're thinking about, you know, what this person is going to say, what that person is going to say. Oh man, my girlfriend's going to be mad, or my boyfriend's going to be mad, or my parents going to be mad, whatever the case may be. But what I realized on the microphone, I realized, like I tell people, I'm one of the quietest people. People say, what the hell? But this right here is an outlet for me, to get my thoughts off, my opinions off, and how I feel. So that was the same for This Is How I'm Living. But like I said, it was nerve-wracking, because doing it was like I said, once again, this is going out to God knows who. I have no idea who's going to listen or hear this podcast, like, at all. So when I had had the podcast going, I'm figuring everything out. I'm figuring out how to get it on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, and this is a hard ass process. Like, I'm telling you, I'm up late night trying to figure this shit out. Like, this is my first time really doing it on my own. I had nobody show me how to get it on Apple Podcasts, and that's one of the hardest platforms to get your podcast on if you don't know what you're doing. Editing videos, I was teaching myself how to edit videos. Like, I had some help in the past from Taz or whatever, and actually threw me some curveballs. But other than that, I was learning on my own how to do all that shit. Just me staying up late, work getting deleted, shit not shaving right, shit coming out wrong. Everything was happening. Even when we did the podcast, This Is How I'm Living, episodes got deleted. Same with the Greenhouse, episodes got deleted. And it's like, what do you do in those situations? You not do it, or you redo it. So like I said, in that whole This Is How I'm Living phase, the whole 2019, it went from January to December. I'm not getting into why it ended. If you know me, then you know why. Other than that, it is what it is. So even I want to say doing This Is How I'm Living, like, every episode was like a first time experience. Like, every episode was a first time experience, no matter what it was, no matter what we talked about, who was on the episode, no matter how it went, whether if we disagreed or agreed. Every time was a first time experience on that podcast. And then like I said, when that ended, I turned around and did a podcast called The Outsider, and I did that based off of the novel The Outsider, written by Stephen King. And then there was a show on HBO called The Outsider. A couple episodes were directed by Jason Bateman. He starred in it. He was a major part of it. And that podcast did about I think almost 3,000 downloads. Just me on my own, by myself, no help, just me. I mean, I had credit for a couple people that typed my bios and stuff like that or whatever, but it wasn't as much work as This Is How I'm Living, because This Is How I'm Living, it was my first time really working with a group of people, because I work by myself. As y'all can see, like, this is all me right here, no help, nobody, just me. Camera set up by myself, everything is by myself. So I did the Outsider podcast, and that, like I said, that did what it had to do. Obviously, it was based around a major show, so people are naturally going to click on that, podcast to see what it's about. And I had good reviews and I had bad reviews, but it was my first time doing it, and of course I was nervous. And the growth, you can hear the growth on each episode, from the beginning to the end. And I purposely do that. My first episodes aren't never perfect because I want you to hear the growth of each episode. That's another thing that I stand for, is growth. So those were, like I said, my podcast resume, as you can say. It started in 2018 and it's going from 2020 on. And also, so now you know the three main things: normalize it, put it in perspective, and reality check it. So now, when we normalize the situation, for me, it felt normal because of, once again, I said it's the conversation of you with your boys. You're having fun with your boys. You're hanging out with your boys. Even if it's people that you don't really know, you still get that feeling of, hey, I'm hanging around somebody that can have a decent conversation. Because, and having good conversations with new people is always fun. So normalizing that situation, it felt normal doing it. It felt natural. It didn't feel like unorthodox, because that's something that we all do as people. Like, we naturally tribe up and come together. So doing that was very normal for me. Like, it didn't feel out of the normal. Like, it was out of my comfort zone, but it felt normal. And I tell people, it's okay to sit down with your friends and grab a microphone and do it. I know it's everybody out there saying like, yo, everybody doesn't need a microphone, but it's like, even if you don't release it, it's still a good form of outlet that everybody should use.